It's a little past time to get started. Sorry for the delay. Please forgive us. Today is Tuesday, March 13th, 2018, and we welcome you to the City Council meeting of the City of Allgood. We'll have a roll call.
Honorable Mayor Dyer,
Present.
Honorable Vice Mayor Norris,
Present.
Honorable Councilman Bilbrey,
Present.
Honorable Councilman Grant,
Present.
Honorable Councilman Hill.
Present.
If you would, please stand. Our Father in heaven, we humbly approach your throne of grace this evening, asking you to watch over us, each and every individual in this building and within this city, and especially this council as we move forward through tonight's agenda, that we may make sound decisions that are best for this city. We pray for anyone who is suffering sickness or affliction of any type, that you may comfort them as only you can. We ask at this time that you forgive us where we fail you. In Jesus' name, amen. Captain Swallows, will you lead our pledge, please?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Our next item is to consider the agenda and approve it as presented. I'll entertain a motion for that.
Second.
Motion and second on the floor. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
Consider approval of the minutes of the council meeting held on February 13, 2018. Each council member was given a copy of those minutes from last month's meeting, and I'm sure you've had an opportunity to look over them. And are there any changes or discussion on any of those items? I'll move approval of that.
I second.
Motion and second on the floor. Mrs. Flatt?
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
Under our new business, we have a couple of ordinances, 2 or 3 ordinances on tonight's agenda to consider. This is to consider approval to suspend the entire reading of these ordinances, 622-18, 623-18, and 624-18. Do I hear a motion on that?
I'll move, yeah.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
Number 4, under new business, the floor will now be open for public comment on ordinance 622-18. We are considering the approval of the second and final reading of this ordinance, amending Title IX by adding Chapter 7 of the Municipal Code, adopting regulations for the farmers market. Keith went back and looked at the state municipal code and followed those guidelines in adopting or in presenting these regulations for adoption for the farmers market. And of course, they need to be in place before we actually approve this. There are several of those. In fact, I believe you have a copy of that in front of you or in your packet this evening, entailing all of the items necessary our rules of order, if you will, for the farmer's market going forward. Does anybody have any public comment or would like to approach the podium on this?
I'll make one comment. After our meeting last time when this came up, and I don't know if this is in here or Keith is expecting to, or is anticipating or allowing himself the ability to exempt residents from paying a fee. I know there was talk that we were gonna charge folks a fee to sell their stuff here. I was approached by somebody, I can't remember who it was. Somebody approached me afterwards and said, hey, I don't think it's fair that, you know, if I live in the city of Allgood that I should have to pay that fee. And there was some equity discussion as to whether or not residents should be charged the fee. So that was, I didn't see it in this reading, but would just hope that that would be in there somewhere. And I don't think Keith was gonna be charging anything. I mean, I think it's gonna be like 10, 15 bucks or something like that. But I did like the idea of exempting residents from having to pay the fee. Of course, they have to abide by the rules. It was just the fee that I thought would be good to exempt residents from.
Is there any other comment from the audience on this? If not, I will now close the floor for public comment and entertain a motion from the council.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion
I second.
and a second on the floor. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris.
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
And then to go back, Mr. Hill, that was actually a topic of discussion in that last night's work session. And I think when we get to that point, for more discussion on that, we can bring a lot of ideas and opinions of what we want to do as far as fees or no fees and things of that nature, so. Item number 5, the floor will now be open for public comment on ordinance 623-18. And this is to consider the approval of second and final reading of that ordinance, amending the fiscal year budget 2017-2018 that was passed by ordinance 616-17. This ordinance is allowing us to amend this fiscal year budget from recent purchases that the city made in regards to park property. It also covers the purchase of a truck for Victor's department, and we're actually more or less just moving an amount from one item from the sanitation department to Public Works. And again, the park property involved, but anytime that we do anything with the budget, we must do it by ordinance and in a public meeting, and thusly we are here for this second and final reading. Is there any comment from the audience? If not, I'll close the floor for public comment and entertain a motion.
I make the motion.
I have a motion
I second.
and a second. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
Item number 6 is to consider approval for a change order for the fire hall project in the amount of $40,481.37 for electrical entrance changes required for Upper Cumberland electrical service. In the most recent, I'm sorry, excuse me.
Go ahead, go for it.
In the most recent site plans for the fire hall, which by the way has been ongoing for several years, it was determined that the electrical entrance could not be put in where they originally had it, and thus they asked for this change order. It is going to cost this amount of money, as is shown in your paperwork, in your file. But as soon as this, I've been made to understand, as soon as this is passed, that work can pretty much begin on the fire hall. Okay. Any other question or comment from the council?
I move that we approve.
I'll second that. I have a motion and a second on the floor. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
Item number 7 is consider approval to surplus weapons, for trade-in to Craig's Firearms for upgrade based on the current inventory listed here, which is 14 units of a Glock 21, 7 units of a Glock 30, and 1 unit Glock 23. Chief, would you like to speak to this, please, sir?
Yes, sir. In reviewing the weapons that we have here, some of them are getting some age on them, night sights are starting to become dim. The gun is actually a very large, heavy pistol. We're looking at transferring, upon approval, we're going to trade him in Craig's Firearms plus $200, and we're going to upgrade all the handguns that currently are being, $200. That will come out of the drug fund, it will not come out of the city funds.
Now, once these weapons are released to Craig's Firearms and paperwork signed, they become their property, and the city of Allgood is no longer
We're completely
clear
clear of it.
of them. Okay,
They're going to the,
good deal.
and they're under state contract.
Any question or comment from the council?
How long are you all keeping weapons and roundabout? How many years?
Biggest thing right now is night sights. They have about a 10-year shelf life. They're starting to become dimmer, and every year they get, it seems like they get, so we're getting to the point now. I want to answer your question, is 10 based on the night sights. If we start having spring issues, we're actually going to do a caliber change. We're going to the 9mm, we're going to do away with 45. By doing so, we're going to be saving practice ammo, between $60 and $90 a case, because it's of a different caliber. The deal that we've worked out with Craig's, like I said, for $200, that's what it's gonna cost us to get a brand new gun. Some of the magazines, that's the biggest issue, because they're under tension, under 45 round. We're starting to see some separations inside the plastic magazine that goes with the Glock, has a metal liner, and we're starting to see separation there. Some of those magazines are much older than 10 years. So this is just going to be a complete, we have an opportunity here to vote to take it, and also as officers' stature, I think the 9mm weapon is gonna be better all around as far as being able to handle a smaller, ergonomics on it's gonna be smaller. So I feel like it's gonna be a good deal all the way around.
Thank you.
Any other question or comment?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and second on the floor. Mrs. Flatt?
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
Item number 8, consider approval to purchase and install Verizon Telematics Diagnostics hardware and software for the police fleet, as shown in an attached quote sheet under the NJPA contract pricing. This is an item we also covered last night in the work session. Talked about it extensively with the chief, and Chief, if you would, just go ahead and enlighten everyone.
This is a tracking device for the vehicle. It tracks maintenance on it, it tracks how fast the vehicle's going. If we have an issue with hard braking, we'll know where that vehicle is at all times. We can pull it up, we can set up our own alerts for it, so if an officer exceeds the speed limit, supervisor biggest concern here, or what we're trying to curtail, is our maintenance issues. This will actually tell us when maintenance is due. It keeps up with it. We can pull off a report with council or anyone that needs it as far as what one particular vehicle, what it's cost us as far as, and when it's up for, if it needs to be renewed. But also, the nice thing about it is they're telling us, Verizon is telling us that if that vehicle is getting ready to have an engine trouble light show up, that it can give us a pre-indicator before it gets to that point. So it's an accountability issue, not only for the police department, the public, but it's also an accountability issue as far as what we spend on things.
Any question or comment from the council on this? And I'm looking for, there, I found it. There's, Verizon has offered the city, two separate pricing proposals. One being that were we to okay this for our fleet, that they would send a tech up here, a technician up here, and install on all vehicles. And that would be actually the second one that has an annual cost of $46.80. And the other plan has that tech coming up here and installing a couple of them and instructing one of our officers or employees how to do the rest for a cost savings. And if you'll notice, the 3-year cost, the annual cost, and the per monthly cost is much cheaper were we to go with the installation of a couple of them and having one of our employees do the remainder of them.
Hey, Chief, if I could, what is your confidence on us being able to install those effectively?
Pretty much plug and play is my understanding.
Okay.
And there's also one thing I did not say, if someone was to disable this device, supervisor is notified immediately.
I wanted to make a comment too. I don't think it's an issue of playing Big Brother or looking over somebody's shoulder, but it gives the chief and the supervisors, as well as us, a whole lot more information at our fingertips if necessary. So, Councilman Hill, you were going to say something?
It's just what you said.
Okay.
You beat me to it.
I'm sorry. Is there any other question or comment on this going forward from the council?
I make a motion, we go with the one where we have a couple installs and we do the rest of it.
Okay, that would be an annual cost of $34.20 and a $285 per month payment from the city for this telematics system. I have that motion on the floor.
I'd second that.
I have a second. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes,
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
Item number 9, consider approval to bid for construction of a farmer's market pavilion at 4th and Main Street. Again, in your packet was included a couple of drawings, preliminary, of course, just a couple of ideas of where the actual building itself would sit, as opposed to street frontage or traffic flow. We have a couple of different variations there, but actually, this is just to consider the approval to bid it, and then we can talk about where we want to sit it, so.
Sit it later.
Yeah. Any question or comment from the council on that? Councilman Hill, have you got a copy of that to
I
look
do
at?
have a copy of it, but the estimate that's in here was by our engineer,
That is correct, sir.
so that's just his rough estimate.
That's
as
just
to
a
what-
rough estimate, yes, and I'm glad you brought that up, because to me, those estimates seem on the high side.
Yes, they do.
So, Mr. Morrison's thinking on this was that, we may actually be able to do it for substantially less than what the engineer estimated. And in talking with, Mr. Jones too, he believes that that cost is just a little bit elevated, so, and I'm sure for good reason, but I believe we can do it for a lot less than what's listed there. Any other question or comment?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and second on the floor. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
Item number 10. Consider approval to bid for repaving of Main Street from Sonic to Burton Branch to include new crosswalks, loops at the red lights, heavy-duty pavement at Walmart, and striping the entire length of Main Street. That bid proposal is also in your packet. Looking at it, there is a notation at the bottom of that. Were we to approve the striping of Main Street, the entire length of Main Street, there would be an added cost in that. That striping would not be, is not included in this particular bid that you're looking at. So it would be an added cost to stripe the entire length of the street. And I'm sure everybody in this room has drove through that intersection and did the wave back and forth like this from almost from Sonic all the way down, so. And also it mentions there the heavy-duty pavement. Much like concrete, pavement comes in different grades as well, thicknesses and hardnesses and things of that nature. So that cost is included there for that particular intersection where a lot of truck traffic, of course, and of course vehicle traffic too. Any other question or comment from the council on this?
I'll just ask Victor, how long do you think this is gonna take?
It's probably gonna take about 2 weeks.
Okay, that's
But
not
I
bad.
Mill the street, you know, have to mill it down, reset some manhole top and stuff like that, valve washers. About 2 weeks, it should,
And this estimate is, I mean, we're gonna be close, is this kinda, is it just tough to say?
yeah, we're gonna be close.
Okay, does this look reasonable? I have no earthly idea on these numbers, these are big numbers, so I just, I'm looking to you
In that
for a
area,
little.
you know, you have 3 lanes of traffic versus
Yeah.
normal streets and all good 2 lanes, so that third lane makes a big difference.
Plus the cost of the pavement itself, you know, you factor in, you know, they do use oil in that pavement and everything, you know what oil prices are, so.
Well, Victor, will they be able to do it at nighttime to not to interfere with the
That's something
businesses?
We'll have to, you know, make a note on the bid, just, you know, see if
Yeah.
they can do that. I'm pretty sure they can, they do
Okay.
it everywhere else.
And it really doesn't matter the time of year. I mean, if you don't do it at nighttime, you're going to impede traffic at some point. And, talking about the main thoroughfare through town, so. Okay, any other question or comment?
Another one for Victor. What
Sure.
happens if we don't do it? What happens if we just say, hey, this is too much right now, and we push it off a year? I would imagine, again, I'm no concrete expert.
Quality
It-
of the road coming into town and going out.
Just-
It's getting real bad down there.
Is it bad?
Everybody here drives it, and
Sure.
you know, it's time to be paved. It's not been paved since Walmart was built. And that's been about, I think, 12 years. That's a long time for a road.
17.
So
With
it's-
that much traffic on it.
It's time.
Yeah, it's about 17 years, I think.
Yep.
It's just, you know,
Yeah.
if you go down there, there's just like a wheel track.
Yeah.
From Sonic all the way out of town, you know, and it's just like this right here, so it's needed bad.
Anyone else? I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion and second on the floor. Mrs. Flatt?
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
Yes.
Item number 11. Consider approval of first reading of ordinance 624-18 to change the zoning classification of approximately 0.85 acres located at the Cooper Road and Dry Valley Road intersection from R1 Single Family Residential to R3 High Density Residential. That is an item that came to the council with a positive recommendation. And if I can find my paperwork on it. It is. There is another R3 area in close proximity to this. This property also backs up to some really high dense single family residences where the lot lines have been minimalized. Wouldn't call them zero, but they're pretty close. They're pretty close. But I'm interested to hear, has any of the council heard or been approached by any residences in the area concerning this?
I've talked to a homeowner that was adjacent to the property, and at first, you know, they didn't know about it. They don't go on Cooper, so they didn't see the sign. So was curious as to notice. I think notice was proper. I think it went in the newspaper in sufficient time. But there were some questions just from that neighbor and another one that was, okay, so what is it? And I didn't attend the planning. I would love to hear what the concept is. And you know, anytime that we're going from, you know, single family, you know, R1, and you're going to make it more dense, you know, I just want to make sure that, and I know it came with positive recommendation, but I would love to hear, you know, what the plan is. Are we talking, are these rental units? Are these, you know, owner-occupied units? Would love to hear, because anytime you're doing it, you have to ask yourself, what is the, you know, net positive for the community?
Sure.
And so how is this going to positively impact all good?
Sure.
So I would love to hear that and go from there.
Okay. Do you have anything on that, Mr. Gilbert? Sure. Sure.
Chad Gilbert. The owners, my brother Seth and Chad Crouch, are both, they couldn't be here, so I think we spoke last time. I spoke on their behalf. One's injured, one's out of town, but I'll be the builder, and I guess maybe co-developer in that sense. But the idea is it's 6 townhomes. They'll be for sale. We submitted a concept plan as well as pictures. The pictures are actually pretty close to what'll be built, maybe all the way down to the color scheme. But you know, they're attached, but they're single family attached by intent. They're going to be owner occupied for sale units. I think the best thing about it is it'll be lower impact than the daycare that's there now. It's idle at the moment, but when it was there, I mean, the traffic from that will be far and away. Or what we have will be of lesser impact than it ever would have been. So other than that, you know, we're not in a, we can actually provide detention now on the lot. I don't know that it's a great contributor to the drainage, but I know that's always on people's mind. But at this point, we'll always, we can provide some.
Well,
trying to think of any other
just to
options.
interrupt you, considering the area, it probably would be a good idea for any type of retention, but.
But when we would have to do that by.
Right. And
ordinance.
there's also another issue from the city's standpoint. Were this to pass both readings, of course, I spoke with Mr. Jones about it last evening in the work session. The actual corner there at Cooper and Dry Valley, the city would actually have to address that right-hand turn onto Dry Valley off of Cooper. It being Cooper coming down at an angle and it being a very hard, sharp right turn back before you make the first Brookside entrance, of course. And then when you do make that turn, 9 out of 10 times you're going to be in the left-hand lane. So from the city standpoint, again, per approval through 2 readings, you know, that's something that we would have to address to try to ease some of that as well.
We're pretty easy to get along with. I mean,
Yeah.
if there's effort we can help coordinate, we're happy to do it.
And I know in the planning commission, I spoke with Mr. Gilbert and I did make one mention of the ingress and egress to these particular, townhomes, that the entrance and exit be as far up Cooper Road and not closer to Dry Valley, so it would not impede the intersection, if you understand what I'm saying. As far up that property line as they could possibly get to put their entrance and exit.
And we're happy to do that through the
Yeah.
site plan process.
And I think there was more concern with, from some of the folks, were that, the owner and not being rentals, because, you know,
Yeah.
you put,
They're gonna be too
no
expensive to
offense,
rent.
and I've got one at home, but no offense, you know, 10 TTU students in one place like that is a disaster waiting to happen.
Fair enough. Now,
And it's,
these will have an HOA. I mean, they're
Okay.
the real deal.
good. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Anybody got any more questions for Mr. Gilbert?
I'd love to get a copy of it, just because I'd love to see it. If you've got like a copy of a plan, schematic, or something.
The planning commission has it.
We actually have
I
some
forwarded
here
it.
in-house, so
Okay.
we'll get you a
Right,
copy of that,
right.
sure would. Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Gilbert.
One last thing. Have you heard from any of the neighbors?
No.
Was there any?
There was one neighbor here who was for it, which I've never had that happen. I have never had that happen.
So was there any opposition at the planning session to this plan?
No, sir.
No opposition.
No one vocalized any opposition during that meeting.
Someone called in to Keith
That is correct, sir.
that week before.
That is
And the
correct.
premise for the opposition was? Do we know?
He didn't go into it.
Didn't go into it.
Oh.
I'll turn mine on. The negatives that I've heard personally are the parking and how do we control, make sure that people are taking care of their space. So if there's
Right.
But I mean, in the
But
HOA,
with it-
Exactly,
It's the
right.
power of the tow truck. I mean, the HOA will just.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, my biggest concern is that exactly what you said was the rental aspect
Right.
of it. And if these are owner occupied, I mean, people care for the things they own.
Right.
And that's probably my biggest concern. Unless, and Chief, I'd love to hear, I mean, when you start getting more dense, would you anticipate any law enforcement issues? I can't imagine, but I don't know, it's in my head right now.
In thinking about it, you're looking at single-family homes, tight area. It's gonna be more compact. Traffic issue may be but you're still talking about residents, I mean, it'd be the same thing. That particular area has got some rental units close.
Yeah.
We pulled some stats for that area based on the council's minutes, and I'm going to be hesitant to say that I'm exactly sure what I'm talking about, because it's the first time we pulled these records. For the most part, there was a lot of traffic, stops by the police department in the Dry Valley area. And just go right on me, shut your business out, but what I'm saying, only stats we could pull was from Walmart, Cooper, Dry Valley, and that circle. So every stat I've got, I can't pinpoint anything specifically to that corner. So it doesn't look bad, and comparing it to the rest of the city, we pulled traffic counts by the DOT's cameras. We're looking at about 2,000 cars in that large area a day is what they're counting at in 2016 figures. We've already been dealing with that already, so 12 cars, 2 cameras.
Yeah, and again, I contend it's a reduction from the daycare. I mean, it's less.
and I'd say that 2,000 number probably is estimated on a lot of school traffic, a lot of lunchtime traffic. You know, there's a lot of people that enter Allgood during the daylight hours just to shop and maybe leave, but and again, I'm just giving facts. I'm not advocating for or against here. Please understand that. So, but
Mr. Mayor, part of these traffic counts also are going to include Walmart,
correct.
so it's.
Yes, sir.
That's why it's going to be in place.
Did y'all build Cooper, or the development there in Cooper Square?
My brother did.
Are these gonna kinda look similar?
Yeah, I
'Cause
mean,
I mean,
when you see the picture, it'll make sense. Yeah, it'll have the same look.
I should hold until,
No, but the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll be a Brick Hardy product.
Anything else?
Yeah.
anticipated
It'll be way
value-
better than what's there.
Yeah, anticipated value per unit,
Oh,
guesstimate?
sales value, I mean, 190, 2 1/4, something like that.
Per unit?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert.
Thanks.
Do I hear a motion for this?
Hey. Am I out of order?
No, ma'am. If you'd like to speak, you're welcome to.
Well, I want to tell you that I live right there where Cooper Road comes out. And if you turn to the left, I'm the first house when you turn into Brookside. There is a tremendous amount of traffic all day long, not just at school time, not just in the evening, it's continually. And another thing, you know that big rock that sits out there?
Yes, ma'am.
It's been hit many times. The day we were moving, it was hit. Not by us. But it is a lot of traffic. And just to keep all of the buildings that is going on, it's just tremendous of how much. And I didn't come to say anything. I didn't even know this was coming up. We just came to listen to see who the people are that run the city. But it discourages me to move to a place and then everything is built around it. And it's just more and more. And we have talked to the police department. There's supposed to be a 15-mile up through there at Brookside. It's not.
In Brookside itself, ma'am?
I'm talking about Dry Valley. Dry Valley. Right in that area.
Yeah.
And I keep saying, children walking home from school, somebody's gonna get hit. And for myself, I hope that's not. I'm not after you. But I know you have to make a living, but we also have to live. Okay?
Could you say your name just for the record?
My name is Mary Graves,
Mary.
and I'll tell you right now, I didn't plan to say one thing.
We
Well,
always welcome your opinions.
But-
Yes. Ms. Graves, you're welcome to come back anytime and express your
Well, I
opinion.
think God has a reason.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Graves, if I could?
Yeah.
I would love to solicit your opinion on this concept. You know, you're familiar with the home that's there now. I mean, you're an adjacent, well, you're pretty darn close to an adjacent landowner. What would be, I mean, you know the house that's there now. It has had some,
Drugs.
it had some issues. And so, you know, we've got a weighing option here we're now with a house that has, I don't want to say fallen on disrepair, but it has kind of fallen the wayside a little bit.
Steps are falling.
Absolutely. And now we have a developer who's saying, you know, 6 units at about $200,000 a piece. You know, that's going to be kind of a higher end home, but it increases the density. As an adjacent landowner, I would love to just get your opinion as to just that right there.
It'd be nice if somebody wanted that would just build a house and put it back from the road enough that people wouldn't keep hitting the rock. And it is now, it's sharp. And could you build a house?
I'm trying to get rid of daycare. That daycare got 100 cars a day coming in there. Can I add to that? On that
Yes, sir, Mr. Jones.
section, we did talk last night, and I talked with Mr. Morrison. If this does pass, that we be working with Chad and him about moving that fire hydrant, moving that pole, and cleaning up that,
Yes.
cleaning that, turning zone back for that reason.
Something I alluded to a little bit earlier, I think it behooves us as a city, not, irregardless of this development possibly coming in, it's something that the city needs to do anyway, just for, general traffic flow or the betterment of it. But, that having been said, is anybody got any other question or comment on this?
Just generally, is this a net positive? So the planning committee met and said this is a net positive for the community. Is that a safe
Yes, sir, they
assumption?
did. Sure did. Any other question or comment on this? I will take or accept a motion on this.
I'll make a motion, pass it on first reading.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second on the floor. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Hold on, if I could, just real quick, the motion was to pass on the first reading
That is correct.
and not to have a follow-up reading.
You will have a follow-up reading. This is a ordinance and you
So
must
the
have two
motion
readings.
Is to approve the first reading, not to, okay.
Correct. This is just the
wanted to
first
clarify.
reading. Next month, were this to pass on first reading, next month, we would have the second reading and a public comment section from any of the citizens at that time.
Is there any other, I'm sorry, I'm gonna piggyback on your question. Any other, planning commission's not gonna be considering anything else on this matter, and so the next step is gonna be this, and then the second reading, and then it's approved.
That's correct, sir. Again, I have a motion and a second on the floor. Mrs. Flatt, please.
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Honorable Bilbrey,
Yes.
Honorable Grant,
Yes.
Honorable Hill.
No.
All right. Item number 12. Consider to approval to purchase a 2018 Dodge Charger patrol car in the amount of $28,414.06 on the state contract. Our state approved contract holder on these vehicles is Columbia Dodge. That is the dealer that we have purchased all of our vehicles thus far from. And in your packet, there were two separate quotes, one for a 2016 and one for a 2018. And I think if you look at the numbers involved with both vehicles, the best bang for our buck as a city would be to go with the 2018. And this stems from one of our officers, through no fault of ours or the city's, being rear-ended on his way to work one evening recently. Thusly, we're going to have to replace a vehicle. Chief, if you would speak to this a little bit more, involving the money that we've received from TML for vehicles and things.
Currently, we have received $25,700.34, and that's in pocket right now in our bank account. We're looking at a $5,000 to $8,000 sale on auction for the red car, which should bring us in a $30,000 to $33,000 range. So the city's not out of pocket the money, we've already got the money back from the insurance company. And I'm agreeing with 2018, I think it's gonna be our best bet, because it's an all-wheel drive vehicle, and what we've had recently, we've actually had some problems with two-wheel drives getting around and responding to calls. So all-wheel drive would be more beneficial for this department.
Thank you, sir. Any question or comment from the council? I'll make a motion for approval.
I say,
Motion and second on the floor. Mrs. Flatt?
Mayor Dyer,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris,
Yes.
Arnable Bilbrey,
yes.
Arnable Grant,
Yes.
Arnable Hill.
Yes.
That brings us to the city administrator's report. And in lieu of Mr. Morrison's absence, you're gonna have to listen to me a little bit more. First of all, I'll entertain reports from our department heads. Any news to share with the citizens or the council? Okay. The fire hall is ready to move forward. Now that we've addressed the electrical issue, we should see movement on that within days or weeks. So, days, we're really looking forward to that for sure. I know I am. It'll be a welcome addition not only for the citizens, for our fire protection, but will also allow EMS to move around a little bit more and do what they need to do as far as the ambulance service that's being provided by the county. On our park grant itself, we're still waiting to hear about the awards announcement. Still no word on that, but we hope to have something within the next couple of weeks on where we stand with that. And our water and sewer project, which, by the way, is a major undertaking. The easement phase is underway, and if I understood Keith correctly, we are talking about, I believe, about a dozen property owners that he's going to have to get an easement okay from. I don't anticipate that that would be a large undertaking, but it could end up to be a little time consuming. But he seemed to feel like that it should move along pretty smoothly. That brings us to our hearing of citizens or delegations. And if you would like to make a comment, please step to the microphone and state your name and address and what you would like to say.
Richard Wood, 343 Brookside Drive in Allgood. The one thing that my wife told me before I left tonight, she says, find out when the farmer market is going to be open.
Victor, I believe you can answer that. Once construction were to begin, what are we looking at?
Within by August, September, something like that.
Okay.
Because they'll have to come, they'll have to go out to bid.
Correct.
They'll have to come and have a council approval.
Yep.
And then after you do that, then it has to go back to them, and then they start processing the bill.
Okay, so,
I'm looking around August, September.
okay, thank you.
My name's Linda Bilbrey. I live at 228 Mirandy Road in Allgood. Referencing the paving of Sonic to wherever.
Out to the new road at Burton Branch, ma'am.
Yeah, whatever. I want to ask the council to consider now doing something to prevent the big heavy trucks from coming through town. I was told that the rock crusher's like on a 5-year delay or something. I'm not sure. But can you all do something, and will you do something to prevent these big trucks from coming through and tearing up the road that we're spending so much money paving?
Yes, ma'am, we will.
Thank you.
That would have to be done by ordinance. We would have to actually pass, it's bigger than a resolution. We would actually have to pass an ordinance in order to make sure that no truck traffic is allowed on Main Street from where Rogers Group sits now this way. All traffic would have to be directed to the east end and enter and exit from 111 out there.
And don't let them come down Miranda either.
No, there's no truck traffic.
There's no truck traffic there anyway. It's posted.
Okay.
It's posted. Any other question or comment from the audience?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Well, before we do that, any other question or comment from the council members? All right, I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor say aye. Aye.